Boys and girls, I hope you're doing well and I hope you're ready for another art lesson. So today we're going to be working on a Zentangle surreal portrait. So it could be a portrait of an animal, it could be a portrait of a person. So what you're going to do is find in a magazine or online, or even actually calendars are really good places to find really beautiful pictures. You're going to find a picture that you really like, and then we're going to cut it out, glue it on a piece of paper, and do lots of tangles around it. So I'm going to show you a few examples that I found that I thought were really cool, and that is what inspired today's project. So this one here, the first one is of a girl. So if you can see, just the face is part of a magazine. So and everything was cut around, and then everything else around is basically patterns and tangles. So, and then there's a little bit of a wash, a watercolor wash that adds to the composition. So the composition is basically how you arrange a painting and how everything kind of looks good and is balanced. So let's see, this one here is one of a guy, and this one also the artist used some colored markers to make his different patterns. But again, the part of the magazine is only the face. Everything else has been added. So it's a multimedia composition, which means that we're cutting out a piece of a magazine, a photograph, gluing it onto paper, and then adding patterns and watercolor. And here's another one from an animal. So this one is a horse. So again, if you're an animal lover, you can find, the animal that you love, and make sure that the pictures that you find are good quality, high resolution, and just large enough. So don't find a small animal. It has to be, as a little bit smaller than the page, but not tiny. So this is really important. So the success of this project is based largely on, the picture that you will find. So the first step for you right now is to go and find a picture that you would like for your surreal portrait composition. We'll see you a little bit later. Alright, boys and girls, I am ready to start my animal portrait Zentangle masterpiece. Now, the hardest part, I think, is to find a picture that you really like. So this one I found it actually in a magazine. It's the Santa Barbara Zoo magazine. But you might have calendars at home, or you can just go online and try to find a picture that really speaks to you. So do some research and find one that you really like. So the next step will be to cut out your picture and think about, like, for instance, I could make the mane here in Zentangle patterns. I could choose to keep part of the body. So I am going to actually take out a lot of the mane, because I'm thinking that I will make some of the mane in Zentangle patterns. Definitely want to keep those beautiful ears here, and then these will be Zentangle. So always think about how you're going to do your artwork. Now, when you're an artist, I don't think that you ever know what's going to happen. So I'm going to keep this, because this will be a good reference for the body. So now I'm going to think if I'm going to put him like that, or actually I might just also cut out this part here. So I'm going to put him just like that. So I'm going to take my glue stick, and I'm gonna put some glue on the back of my animal picture, and I'm gonna put him where I think it should be, right here. Okay, if you have white glue instead of a glue stick, that's fine too. And then I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to make kind of division, so I can look here. This is what I cut off, and I could see that right here I have more, you know, lots more mane. So let's say that this is all his mane, really big mane here, and maybe continues here all the way to the side. So kind of, and here is part of his body that was going here, and part of the body going here. So this is going to be like that. Now, so if you see, I'm just going to make different sections, and these ones will be different Zentangle patterns, like that. And then in my background, I can also, you know, make other patterns. But right now, what we're trying to do is just kind of separate in different sections, and then I can add some later. So this is the first part, and then the next part, what we're gonna do is add a little bit of a watercolor wash. So I'm going to take a little bit of water, and for instance, I'm gonna start actually with the back, and I'm gonna put water, even though we are not using watercolor paper. If you do have watercolor paper, I think I would use that. So I'm going to put a little bit of water. Remember, we're using what we have at home. So I'm gonna put a little bit of blue, and I want just a wash. So I'm going fast. A wash means that it's really see-through. So it's just a little bit of color, so that our paper is not completely white. I'm gonna go like this. So I go back and forth. Remember, with watercolor, you have to work really fast. Like that. So here. And then I'm gonna do the same thing here with different colors, you know, and I could choose to be realistic or not. So orangey might be a little bit realistic, and maybe a little bit more here. There's a different kind of a brown. It's like a light brown. Maybe right here it's more of a yellow. So this one is turning out kind of realistic, the colors that I'm using for now. And then I think I'm gonna go to yellow right here. I'm sorry, orange. And then a little bit of a light, very light brown. At the top, same thing. And here's our body. I think I'm going to do a kind of a brownish color too. Again, I want a wash, so I have to add water, so it's really light. It's just kind of so our paper is not completely white. I forgot a little bit of blue here. I put a little bit of blue. There we go. And maybe here I want to add a pop color. Maybe a little bit of kind of purple here. And then I'm gonna go back and add kind of an outline. So I had a lighter blue. I'm gonna go in with a bit of a a little bit of a darker, just a little bit darker blue. I'm just gonna go all the way around. And you see how I'm going really fast, so, and then I can kind of make it wash. So again, trying to make a blend out of this line. I'm gonna go and do it again. So it's just a little wash. I'm using a medium brush, so it's, you know, not the ballerina brush, not the big brush, medium brush. And I'm gonna do the same, kind of the same thing in here. So I'm using now a little bit darker color, so this one is red for my outline. Orangey red. And right here. So each section, just adding a little bit. So just to bleed. And again here. I think I have one more, a couple more here. And right here, maybe with a little bit of a brown. So each section, I have a little bit of a wash. Same thing here. Maybe even a little bit darker brown here. Get a little bit more contrast. And then let's not forget this part here that I have no idea what it's going to be, but I'm just going to add a little bit right now. So this is the first step. We're going to let it dry completely, and then we'll come back when it's dry and add a lot of really cool Zentangle patterns. Alright, boys and girls, the next step, once your image is dry, so all this, my watercolors dry, and I am now ready to Zentangle some patterns in the background. I also pressed this artwork so that it wasn't kind of wrinkled. It's easier that way. So you could just place it inside, like for instance, two books to just make it really flat. So I'm going to be using a thick, so this one is called a fine point Sharpie, and also a thinner one, and that will help for different line contrasts. And here is just a really simple pattern guide that you can use for reference. Now these are very simple patterns. Zentangle has some really sophisticated ones that you can also use, but I'm just going to start with that. So I'm going to decide in each of these areas I will add a different pattern. And as you know, patterns repeat, so you have to be just really consistent with your patterns. So for instance, if I start with kind of a swirl pattern, I'm going to repeat it again and again. And think about, you know, your animal, what you think might go, or if it's a face, what would suit you know, your design. So think about the way the line goes, the movement that you can give to your pattern. So all of those things really matter when you're doing, actually when you're doing any type of art. In this case, we're going to just be doing Zentangle. So I'm going to repeat my pattern again. And in some patterns, there's a first step and a second step so that you can make it a little bit more interesting. And in each one of your segments, you can add different patterns. And once you're done, you can also add patterns in the background and even some lines on the face, which is on the actual photograph. So I'm going to continue each pattern and I will see you in a little bit.